Welcome back to the next episode of The Old Guy in the Net.
I don't know how much of this cage is going to survive this storm. I'm sure we're going to lose these panels, some of them. Hopefully that's it. Hopefully I got trees all in the back here. They don't belong to them. We don't own these trees, but I have a feeling some of them are going to end up in here. That's what the old guy in the net's going to be dealing with this week. Will not be on the ice, and I won't be smoking cigars and drinking Red Bull out here in a nice dry pool deck.
PM advisory. So it just came out moments ago, and I did go through it, but let's go over this again. Maximum sustained winds are at 160 miles per hour. So since 2 a.m., that hasn't changed, unfortunately, because this is a Category 5. Also, the speed increased about 2 miles since the last advisory. So now at 14 miles per hour with that forward motion towards the northeast direction towards the west coast of Florida. That distance roughly 300 miles southwest of Tampa. So it is getting closer and closer to the west coast of Florida. Here's a look at that forecast cone. I want to point out the forecast cone didn't change. If anything, if it did, it was very subtle, but it looks just about the same. It looks like that center of the
Right, so instead of getting ready for hockey games, it was time to prepare for the incoming hurricane. And that is an interesting thing to go through because you're constantly watching the weather report. Your phone is monitoring all the different weather sites. You're looking at these radar maps, and you're gathering as much information as possible to make decisions on whether you should evacuate. These hurricanes have been known to suddenly take hard turns and totally miss Tampa Bay. Every time we looked at the weather map, the tracking was like a direct hit on where I live. By the time we saw that it was going to pretty much be a direct hit, it was too late to evacuate. So we then, started to get our, supplies together and figure out how we're going to, take this on. Our biggest concern or worry was the threat. Tornadoes are nothing to mess with. They're so powerful. They tear your house apart. From what hours you have before it gets here, it's really interesting because in this neighborhood, everybody was like boarding up their windows. Everybody kind of waited to the last minute here because we've been through so many of these they have missed. This one again, as it got close, like my phone's blowing up with these like alerts. Evacuate zone A, B, and C. Then you start doubting yourself whether you made the right decision on staying. Hurricane expected to make landfall at 8 p.m. There were reports of several tornadoes touching ground all through that afternoon. With all this going on in other parts of Florida where we were fine. We still had power. We were gathered in the middle of our house here and just, watching TV and, doing our regular routines. And then, the night comes along and we're still tracking the storm. It's moving closer, and around 8 o'clock, we're watching this last weather report. And just as he's about to give an update in our area, we lose power. Like that, it was dark, it's raining, we're hearing the wind, and 15 minutes later, we hear this loud crash. We know it's a tree and it's fallen, and the hurricane is here at our doorstep. We're in for a really long night. So eventually we got to sleep, got up early in the morning, and there was devastation all across Florida. For us, we were lucky. We were spared. That loud bang we heard just as things got going, our neighbor's tree right next to us just missed us, hit part of their roof, ripped through their fence, took down the power line right behind our house. So other parts, houses were destroyed, just devastation everywhere. 24 hours later, the cleanup begins. And for most of us, our power was still out, and it would remain out for over a week. The 3 hockey rinks that I play at were still without power, and that includes the Tampa Bay Lightning's practice facility. So we got messages that the rinks would be closed indefinitely, that they lost their ice. I made a trip down to Brandon just to check it out myself. This lot, it's never empty. It's always full. There's always something going on at this rink. But on this particular day, you see, there were no cars, there's no ice, there's nothing going on in this facility, there's no power. Finally, Sunday comes along, and we're all feeling like we just want to get out and try to get back to normal. So I made the trip to the Fish Hawk and played some ball hockey, and it was nice just to get out there. We didn't have many players. There were only 10 of us there that made it. A lot of guys couldn't make it just because of gas. There was gas shortages all throughout Florida. You know, the 10 that were there, we played and we hung out and talked about what we had been through. You know, when you lose something or you have something taken away from you, it sure feels good to get back to doing something that you love. And that's how it felt on this Sunday.